Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today we are talking about the Tide of Death and Fractured Dreams brand new full-length studio album from English death metal crew Ingested. I first came to know Ingested back in 2015 with the release of The Architect Extinction, which at the time I really enjoyed because it was really grimy, really intense, filled with pulverizing, churning riffs and blast beats. In these early years, Ingested were a more straightforward kind of slam and brutal death metal band, but since 2020s where only gods may tread, I feel like the band has gotten more melodic, more technical, more modern. They've pulled more influence from death grind and from deathcore. Massive upgrades all around in the production and songwriting departments, resulting in just better music, more varied, more brutal, more interesting. 2022's Ashes Lie Still, in particular, had quite a few interesting twists and turns and curveballs and tricks up its sleeve. Despite all of this, though, we here at the Metal Meltdown have had the unfortunate tendency to push Ingested ever so gently into the albums I missed territory. Nothing personal, it just so happens that every time Ingested releases something, there's usually something else that I'm just more interested in talking about. Well, not this time. Ingested have graduated. They finally get an album review all to themselves. Bask in the spotlight. You've earned it. Now, The Tide of Death and Fractured Dreams is by no means a groundbreaking or revolutionary listen, and I do think that some longtime fans and metal elitists might be annoyed by Ingested leaning even further into the deathcore side of their sound. But, overall, I enjoyed it. It's nice to see Ingested continue to slightly and subtly grow and evolve and expand their sound and their horizons. It's nice to see them bring in some special guests to provide some extra spice and flavor here and there. And I think overall, though not as strong as some other Ingested releases in the past, we've got a pretty solid, meaty, modern death metal, deathcore experience here. You've got Paragon of Purity opening the album on a pretty decent note with a steady barrage of mid-pace death metal and deathcore, tons of chunky grooves, tons of sneering vocals, tons of eerie leads and battering beatdowns. It is maybe a tad generic, straightforward, one note. Those are all fair criticisms, but I think it plays that one note pretty well, opening this record on a decently hefty and menacing note. Then there's Endless Machine, which sandwiches some pretty dirty riffs and grooves in between some more bombastic and extreme towering walls of blast beats and bellowing vocals. I like the very, pessimistic lyricism here, kind of dealing with, the endless machine of life, the constant grind and daily struggle of life. The whole thing kind of feels like something that Die Hard is Murder might churn out, albeit darker and more brutal in sound and tone. We have two different collaborations on this record, one being Expect to Fail, featuring Josh Middleton of Silosis and Architects fame, the second of which being In Nothingness, featuring Mark Hunter from Chimera. The former of which does a good job at just exuding this pure sense of dread and despair with these hard-hitting, pounding guitars, some doomy twists and turns and beatdowns, and some anguished, faded, clean vocals courtesy of Josh Middleton, whereas the latter is a slow-paced bruiser of a cut with some more atmospheric textures and elements and some more deranged, almost Jonathan-esque clean vocals. Pretty much smack dab in the middle of this bad boy too, you have the instrumental cut Numinous, which works pretty well as a palate cleanser for the record. It kind of goes from being more minimalistic and expressive, playing around with some atmospheric leads and textures and soundscapes, before then transitioning into a nice chunky, almost progressive death metal kind of cut. In my opinion though, the best cut on the record is the closing number, A Path Once Lost, which has this very melancholic, dreary kind of introduction with some very depressing, kind of monotonous, clean vocals as well, before then transitioning into some super chunky, super heavy, brutal deathcore. I will say it's maybe just a little bit long, clocking in close to 7 minutes when it could make do with being 6, but overall a really solid way to close out this bad boy. Now, I will say I found myself being underwhelmed and unimpressed by some other cuts on the record. Start the Fire especially was really flat, really bland, Didn't care much for its chorus, but overall I enjoyed, I would say, a respectable majority of this record, and I did appreciate Ingested trying new things and trying to incorporate these new ideas and influences into what they've done on previous studio albums. I'm feeling, let's go with an enthusiastic 3 out of 5, maybe leaning ever so slightly to a 3.5 out of 5. It's decent. I enjoyed it. It's well made. It's well polished. Nice, clean, tight production. It's got some super fun, super menacing, super crushing heavy parts. It's got some more experimental flares and spices here and there. Definitely some duds and some fat and filler on this bad boy. It's not as consistent or as cohesive as other albums and EPs that Ingested have released in the past. And I will also add, with Ingested leaning into more deathcore territory, you can expect a few thoroughly boring, ham-fisted breakdowns here and there. But still a solid record, still a fun record. If you've enjoyed what Ingested have done over the course of the past couple of years, definitely check this out. If you're into more of that slam, brutal death metal kind of stuff, maybe skip. Maybe you're better off sticking to the earlier records, but I don't know. Give it a shot. Why not? What else do you have to do this weekend? Probably nothing, because you're sitting here watching this, so fuck it. I'm curious to see where Ingested go from here. I'm hoping that the next album could find like a solid middle ground between like the more classic, brutal kind of Ingested stuff and some of these more funky and vibrant and experimental flavors, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. For now, it's an enthusiastic 3 out of 5. It's decent. I enjoyed it. Maybe you will too. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you can get updates on the Metal Meltdown immediately, just in case you haven't done so already. Look, there's even more videos here. Pick up some merch on the Redbubbles. Say hello to us on the Discords. And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.